Hey, and welcome to Matt and Jess TV. I am Matt Roast here with Jessica Bunbun, and this is our reaction and review to Presumed Innocent, episode 7. We are so close to the finale, guys. I love this show. This show is insane. This show is off the rails in so many different ways. It is completely ridiculous that Rusty in this episode is just like, I'm representing myself, and the show just goes with it. It is the most predictable legal drama thing ever. It should be annoying, but I'm all in on it.
Yeah, I love this show. The fact that it was even renewed for a season 2 is like thrilling to me at this point. I'm like, bring me more. Like, I don't know what story you'll tell next, but I'm here for it. They have done such a good job with this first season of this
Yeah.
limited series that I'm just like, I'm here for all the presumed innocent.
Yeah, like I think I've reached this point where am I taking every single thing that this show is doing seriously? No, I'll be honest with it. It is, but it's over the top. It's an over the top legal thriller, and I
Yeah.
do believe at the end of the day, regardless of my opinions about how the show is handling the legal system and following the letter of the law with everything, I do believe that the eventual killer for Carolyn will make sense and they will offer up some sort of explanation as to why it happened. As a reminder,
Mhm.
they have already said that it's not necessarily going to be the same as what you've seen as past iterations of Presumed Innocent. We may have a very different ending here.
Or it may be the same, and that's fine. If it
Yeah,
does end up being the same, that'll be fine too. It's just nice to actually have the idea that it could be something else, so that even if you know the story and you know who's the killer in other iterations of this show, the book and the movie, could be something different, and it gets us all really thinking. And
yeah.
it's been a little while since we've had a really good who done it mystery on the air.
Yeah, so get your tinfoil hats at the ready because there's a ton we are going to get into here. Starting off, of course, with the big question as to who left the murder weapon at Tommy's with the cat that kind of looks like the cat from the video game
Oh.
Stray. Like, there is so much to get into here. Before we do, be sure to hit that subscribe button because we will be back after the finale where everything will hopefully be revealed and we will discuss whether it is a good ending, a bad ending, anything in between, and hit that like button as well.
Also, if you're looking for more murder mystery type shows,
Mhm.
join our Patreon. We are covering Criminal Minds Evolution season 2 over there right now, and it's exclusively on our Patreon. Murder mysteries is a big thing
Yeah.
that we like to cover here at the channel, and some extra shows on the side
Mhm.
over on our Patreon. We'll leave the link for you below if you'd like to join. And, thank you so much to everybody who has.
Thank you
Okay,
guys.
let's get straight into it. Who left Tommy the murder weapon? Matt? Okay, you guys do. Tell us in the comments.
I usually like to come on here with these big, elaborate, crazy theories about it, but I will be honest, I've had a really hard time with this one. And I think the biggest reason why it's hard to really think a lot about why someone would actually do this. Because when you think about it, almost every single person in the world of Presumed Innocent, other than Rusty Savage, probably is just fine with letting Rusty Savage go to prison over this. This is not somebody anyone should have a motive to want to protect. He is
Mhm.
a terrible person. He had a lengthy affair with his wife. He lied about it at certain points. He has gotten into physical altercations with people, lied about those. Even when he's trying to get help from people, he's then later on is just like, get out of my car. He doesn't do anything good for anyone. And it feels like if you're trying to leave behind a murder weapon, you're trying to almost either find a way to incriminate Rusty further if you really think he did it. But if you really think that, how do you know that this is proof? Or you're trying to potentially steer the ship over to somebody else. But why would somebody do that?
This is the thing about it. Like, because it had the note that was F you,
Yeah.
and then here's the murder weapon, it feels very much like this isn't necessarily that someone's trying to protect Rusty. The note feels like maybe, but it also feels like this person is like, F you, I know you did it. Because here's the real thing.
Yeah.
If you killed Carolyn with this poker, why are you giving it to Tommy? Like, even if you've wiped it down, you think you've got all your DNA off of it, you don't know for sure that you did.
Mhm.
So I'm having a hard time believing that the person who actually killed Carolyn left him the poker with this note to be like, ha ha ha, you got the wrong guy. I actually did it. None of that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So, what I think happened is when Tommy came home, he saw that his place was ransacked. There's papers everywhere, the windows open, all kinds of stuff. Here's the poker with the
Yeah.
note. I think somebody went in there looking for something else. I don't know what. But found the poker there and then was like, "Oh, really? So either you've been sitting on the murder weapon this whole time or you are the murderer and you've had this weapon the whole time. F you on a post-it."
Okay, I'll try to get into some crazy thinking here, and I'll think somewhat along the lines of what you've brought up here, that maybe Tommy actually did it. But why would somebody be going in there looking for something? I think it might stem from this idea that we know that Tommy had some sort of history with Carolyn. Carolyn
Yes.
had filed that HR complaint against him. She didn't file one against Rusty, filed one against Tommy. So there's obviously some pretty dark stuff that's going on here.
Yeah, we also saw in this episode that whole flashback of like, oh, when you whatever, get your first case or you get your tie clipped and up on the wall with everybody else's. And we saw Tommy like rip hers down and then take his first tie and put it back on. So he's clearly upset with her.
Yeah, there is really a deep history here. There's a lot of tension. There's probably some sort of evidence at Tommy's place that his obsession with Carolyn is a lot deeper than anyone thought. And maybe this is just whoever broke in there sort of sending a message that it's like, okay, you're the person supposedly out to prosecute Rusty, and you've got this huge flaw, this thing that could get this entire case thrown out. And maybe that's a part of it. And then they also found, this murder weapon, like you said, and then they're sending that message to go along with it. It's just, this is where it's hard. It's hard to really identify why exactly someone would take this sort of risk unless they are particularly reckless. And that's why I have been on this. Kyle, the kid, may have done this for a while because he is reckless. He's a kid. He's throwing his bike in the garbage. He's not somebody who's going to figure things out. But once again, is Kyle going to be capable of going into Tommy's house and being kind of all sneak? He's a kid.
Well, that's where the idea of maybe there's two people that are involved with this kind of keeps it going, where it's like maybe Kyle did it
Mhm.
and he hit her with the poker and then went home and his mom figured out what happened and she went back and was like, okay, we need to clean off as much DNA as we can of Kyle. Well, I'll tie her up so it looks like Rusty because Rusty's the person that has created this mess. He did this to me. Look at what
Yeah.
happened to our son. The whole family's falling apart because of his affair,
Mhm.
F him. So we'll just do it this way where I'm protecting Kyle and Rusty can go down for it. I mean, we saw Barbara, cleaning his bike and trying to get DNA off of things. So is it possible then that she went and just made the murder scene, tied up Carolyn like Bunny, and because there was no DNA on anything. So clearly she's good at cleaning stuff.
Yeah.
But would she then take that poker and give it to Tommy? Like I just, if that is what has happened at some point, that the murderer actually just went and gave Tommy the murder
Yeah.
weapon, like I'm gonna call BS. No one would do that.
It is more interesting if Tommy is the killer and Tommy had the weapon and these people were in there looking for something else, like you said, maybe looking for more evidence that ties him to Carolyn, and then they found this. They're doing this to send some sort of a message. But even if you guys do all this, you make this post-it note, you send the message. I hope you took some photos or something of the poker while you were there, or something that actually proves, because otherwise, what's the point?
That's the whole problem with this. Like,
Yeah.
it was a good reveal at first. I'm like, ooh, this is juicy. But then
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, what's the point? Like, if you go in there and you find the murder weapon there, why didn't you take it with you and give it to somebody? I mean, yeah, you have to admit that you broke in and it's probably
Yeah.
unadmissible. But at the same time, then maybe tell somebody and get it brought out properly. Like, there has to be something more to it.
I think what's really interesting at this point with the show is there's this fundamental question of what does everybody want out of this trial as well? Because Rusty already had an option to just have it be declared a mistrial, but he was just like,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. I'm gonna keep going with this. And so it's like, all right, Rusty, you either really know that you did not kill Carolyn and you're trying to find a way to get the truth out here, or you just really think that you can lie and scheme your way out of this and you did kill Carolyn.
Yeah, he just doesn't want Nico to have a mistrial because he thinks that that will just help Nico and Tommy and their whole side of things because the jury just watched Rusty go all hero to help save Raymond's life. Now,
Yeah.
I will say this. This was a bit like I was like, "Oh my god." When we were all at the hospital and the
Yeah.
doctor comes out, I was like, "Oh, not only is Raymond okay, but he's actually better than when he first came in here. He'll be out of here in like a day. He'll walk out here improved." I was like, "This cannot be for real." Like when I saw Rusty seeing Raymond and he was on the phone, I was like, is he hallucinating that he's seeing Raymond? There was a second that I was like, is Fight Club going on here? We saw that Rusty was taking these drugs, and these drugs do and can
Yeah.
cause hallucinations. So I was just like, maybe he's not really there. And Rusty's just going crazy now at this point with the hallucinations. But then I saw him like talking to other people. I'm like, okay, he's there.
I would kind of rather the Fight Club twist than this. It is completely insane that not only is Raymond okay, but Raymond is out. He's fine.
Better than ever.
He's seemingly going to be okay to do this trial moving forward. Once again, a reminder: presumed innocent cannot be taken seriously, and every single part of it. This show
But
is
it's so fun.
it's ridiculous fun. This is where that hijack comparison I made last week. Hijack was completely ridiculous. It made no sense a part of the time, but it was a good thrill ride. And that's
Yeah.
where we are with this show. It's a good thrill ride, but it's also a good mystery. And you have all of these sort of different moving parts and all of
Mhm.
it. And that's why, the brief period of time that we saw Rusty representing himself in court, yes, it was completely ridiculous. But at the same time, he was trying to get some element of evidence out there. And he did find out a couple of interesting things here when it comes to Michael, who cannot stop talking about how Rusty killed his mother while on the stand. It seems like Michael was doing a lot of digging and is kind of taking on this amateur sleuth role himself.
Yeah, and he was able to sort of dig up what happened to Bunny and Bunny's case and stuff like that. So it's kind of like he's trying to point the finger at other people. And obviously Michael's father was really upset and was
Yeah.
like, you guys said you were going to protect my son, and now it's, could my son have done this?
Yeah.
Had a terrible relationship with Carolyn, was, maybe jealous that Rusty was getting her attention and Michael wasn't able to, was really obsessed with her as well, looking up all the different cases she had done, including the Bunny case. Like, could he have done this? I guess. I don't think so. And I don't even think Rusty thinks so
Yeah.
either. But Rusty is really like, well, if we're looking at people who could have done this and had motive to do this, I am not the only game in town, which is what Tommy is trying to represent.
This is I hate to say it because Rusty is just such a terrible person. Like this entire
But he's such a good lawyer.
He's such a good lawyer. This entire back and forth with Michael is really important for establishing that very thing. But
Mhm.
because just through the trial so far, we've established that, okay, Tommy did not have a great history with Carolyn, and that's something we
No.
have to remember here. Michael was digging a lot into everything with Carolyn, and yes, Rusty went a little bit over the top by starting to just sort of yell, "Did you kill her?" to Michael while the judge is
Oh my
right there.
god.
It's just like, okay, you already made your point here, Rusty. You don't need to also be found in contempt for a million other different things, but he has established well now that there are a number of other people who wanted Carolyn gone, and they don't really have that much tangible evidence of Rusty beyond where he was when she died, and then also, okay, he had a motive.
Yeah. And I mean, okay, who out there knew that Rusty was going to take the stand at some point? Like, I felt like probably.
Yeah.
It's going to be really interesting. I mean, now that Raymond is back, is it possible that he will do the cross on Rusty? Yeah, probably. I don't think we're going to see Rusty just asking himself questions. But it was really interesting to see Tommy pull him apart pretty well in court to show that he has a history
Yeah.
of, beating people up, strangling the Emmy, doing all these different types of things, that this is part of who he is, with multiple examples. That's not just a one-off. It's, he beat up this guy at the door. He did this thing to the Emmy. It's just so many things that were happening. And you could see it all over Tommy's face that he was like, this is my moment. I am having my moment right now where I'm pulling apart the great and glorious Rusty that's had the better career than me, that had the woman that I want, and I'm the person that's going to take him down.
You got a win, but it's also a partial win, because if I'm just going to take my objectivity out of this, if I'm on the jury right now, here's what I'm probably thinking. Does it sound like Rusty probably did this? Sure. But do I know for sure that Rusty did this? No. And that's the whole point of this. No matter what Tommy was able to go up there and do, he presented a great argument as to why Rusty could have done this. Yes, Rusty is capable of it, but it still doesn't mean he did it. And that's where I think things are going to get really tricky moving into the finale. It's just there's all these different missing pieces that are out there. And I think on paper, it's kind of easy enough to make a small list of suspects and say,
Yeah.
okay, Rusty did it himself. Carolyn is dead, obviously.
Mhm.
Barbara, did she do it?
Mhm.
Kyle, did he do it? Tommy, is there anybody else who would be a compelling ending to this?
No, not really. I mean, if it's like Michael or Michael's dad, I mean, they've been such side characters that it would kind of just be like it's them because you never would have guessed it. Ha ha
Yeah.
ha, right? Like, it's not compelling enough with the players that we've been invested in, and why they don't like Rusty, or why they're having a problem with Carolyn.
That's really what's going to make the ending of this season, I think, so difficult, is just that if they do something really surprising, like let's say the medical examiner did it for
Oh my
whatever
God.
reason. Yeah, there's not much of a motive there. They can achieve the whole effect of, oh, we did an ending you did see coming, and maybe they'll drop enough stuff to justify it. But I think at the end of the day, it's going to be really weird. But if they do something where, oh, it's Kyle, which is, the theory that I've had, it'll
Yeah.
be a part of it will be, okay, that's compelling. It makes sense. He felt betrayed by his father and everything that was going on. But there will also be a lot of people out there being like, oh, come on. It was so obvious. We all saw it coming. There is no genre of TV quite like murder mysteries when it comes to failing to make anyone happy, because everyone has their own ideas to how it should end. And if it doesn't end that way, they all get upset.
Well, the interesting thing too is that they haven't had the murder weapon up to this point.
Yeah.
They've had a little bit of DNA evidence, which was going to be there because Rusty was having an affair with Carolyn. He was at her house all the time. So,
Yeah.
of course, his DNA was going to be there, was going to be on her, was going to be around the apartment. All of that makes complete sense, but it's not enough to convict him. And there's no murder weapon. So there's no way to really put him with that murder weapon. Now that the murder weapon is at Tommy's house, either it's Tommy's and Tommy has it and he's not going to bring it into evidence, or there's somebody, the murderer, has brought it to his house to be like, it's me. What? And I don't know why. Like, it's so strange, but it's making it that I absolutely cannot wait for this finale. I want to know who brought that murder weapon there, or who pulled it out of under Tommy's bed.
This is almost as compelling a mystery at this point as who killed Carolyn, because at least with Carolyn, it's easy to sort of understand why people would have a motive. With this other stuff with the murder weapon, it's just so abstract and out there and kind of difficult to parse. Like, there's another question I do have entering the finale that's sort of separate from who killed Carolyn. And this is, okay, let's say that we find out that Tommy did it, that your idea of Tommy's true. Tommy's actually the killer. What happens next to Rusty and his family at this point? Because there's clearly been enough bad stuff that's come out about Rusty in this trial anyway, that even if he doesn't end up in prison, is he going to be able to practice law again? Is Barbara going to leave him? Like, there's these other dominoes that are supposed to fall here if we are meant to care about these characters.
Yeah, Barbara needs to leave. Like, I know that they've had this conversation like a couple episodes ago where, he was like, "Why do you stay?" And she's like, "Why do you stay?" And they're sitting beside their daughter who's asleep. And it's like, okay, you're staying for the kids who are almost adults.
Yeah,
Like, why are you guys staying? Your children are old enough at this point and have seen what's happening, how unhappy they
yeah,
are, everything with the murder trial, how, how badly this marriage is. How good do you think those kids feel about their parents staying in a loveless marriage where
yeah.
they don't want to be together? I think they're old enough to be like, you guys just need to split ways. Like, you're not happy. And if you're not happy, then it's making us not happy. I think they want their parents to be happy. Barbara has to leave, and Rusty has to leave. He was clearly not happy if he's stepping out.
I do not want Rusty to end this show happy. I will say that right now, and I will not feel bad about it. I'm not saying Rusty needs to go to prison if he's not the killer, but Rusty is one of the most unlikable characters I have ever seen in any television show, shape, or form, even to the extent of him telling Carolyn, oh, I want to be with you, and all of these other different things that Barbara didn't exactly know about before this episode. It's just every single thing about you sucks, and you do not deserve to have a happy future after this.
No, but Barbara doesn't deserve to be stuck with Rusty
No.
either. Like, Rusty is a terrible person. Carolyn wasn't a great person
Yeah.
either. I'm not saying she needed to die or anything, but she treated Rusty pretty bad. Rusty wasn't that great to her either. I mean, he wasn't great to
Yeah.
anybody. It's sort of a like, they deserve each other. If she was alive, they should just go off and be together. But I mean, even her, she's just like, yeah, I don't want to be with you for the rest of our lives. I wanted to be with you on the side. It made it uncomplicated, Tell me how I'm better than your wife. She was a terrible
Yeah.
person. But I want to see Barbara have some sort of happy ending. Like, her just getting to kiss Cliff was not enough. She needs to just be out on her own,
The last thing I will say here is
murderer or not. I'm rooting for you, Barbara.
I I hope something figures out for the good of those people. Here's what I'll say about Gyllenhaal.
Hmm.
He has two speeds on this show.
Hmm.
He's either normal or trying to be normal,
Yeah.
or he's yelling. I have come to determine there is no middle ground with Gyllenhaal, and I'm sure this was a deliberate choice by the directors. And I like
Mhm.
Gyllenhaal. This is not a referendum on Jake Gyllenhaal, but it is. I occasionally laugh at times that I shouldn't laugh just because he is going for it. Every time the director is telling him to yell, him basically being like, get out of the car in this episode. Rusty, you were having a conversation, and the moment it stops going your way, you just put your foot down, you start acting like a big baby, you start yelling to get out of the car, you're yelling at Mike. There's nothing you can do other than try to talk normal or yell in this role.
Yeah, no, they've got him yelling and pushing people around a lot. And I think it's because they want us to be here wondering, did Rusty actually just do this?
Yeah, this show is insane. I also love it. I'm also going to be really sad when it's over. There's no other murder mystery that is quite like this.
No, there isn't, but we will have Only Murders in the Building coming up in August. And we have season 2, Presumed Innocent, coming up. Who knows when?
Oh man, I can't wait. When we do the finale, I'm gonna try to come up with some ideas as to who should be the next Gyllenhaal.
Well,
But
that's the thing. They're going to need to have another big star in. I
yeah,
mean, Jake Gyllenhaal is a pretty huge star, and to have him on this show, I was like, "Oh, wow, this is something else." I know that the movie had Harrison Ford, but that was a movie, and typically, you don't have the A-listers on TV. It's been something that's changed over the past couple of years, but I was really surprised when this show was announced. It's like, "Oh my God, Jake Gyllenhaal is doing this show. It's incredible."
I'm gonna put some thought into this.
Yeah.
I gotta come up with some great people, and I'm not gonna say Colin Farrell as John Sugar. I'm gonna try to come up with something very
He's
interesting.
busy coming up on the Penguin.
All right, all right. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button. You can support us further by joining our Patreon.
Yep.
A link in the description below. As Jess said, we are covering Criminal Minds Evolution exclusively over there.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching. We'll see you here next time.